West of What is a round-table conversation inspired by Mother Earth's call for more landwork ceremonies to happen. This is a podcast where spirituality lands into politics, history, culture, and more, because land is where we all meet. We want to know how we can come into greater connection with the land and each other, and how we can all move forward with integrity. We believe the answers and solutions will come from many voices, from the truths that happen inside of our togetherness. Hello and welcome to West of What. And today I am super excited that our guest is Carmen Guiu, although people know her as Mango. And I'm really excited she's coming on the show because I met her a few years ago at a festival. And I have to say, she's one of the most present people I have ever met. And it's quite rare these days to meet somebody who is present. And so that is why I invited her on the show. She's a mum and a very, very, very busy woman doing lots of amazing things. And I only got her bio literally just a few minutes ago on a voice note with her kid in the background. So I hope I get this right. But what she said is, after a diagnosis, she was medicated from the age of 9 years old and started to self-medicate. And by the age of 16, she was having a wildly good and intoxicated time. And by 23, she was swinging between raving and being suicidal, and she got into co-counselling that turned her life around. She has now been teaching re-evaluation co-counselling for 8 years and uses this in horticultural therapy for a homeless charity. And for the last 9 years, she's also run a free moon circle, which I have to say is very rare in London. And it's a co-creative space that is being, and the moon circle is being turned into a book. So as you can hear, she's a very busy lady. We're very lucky to have her on West of What. Thank you for coming on, Carmen.
Thank you for having me.
And can I begin by just asking, what is co-counselling?
What is co-counselling? It's swapping time between two trained counsellors. So instead of you paying a counsellor who has that kind of hierarchy over you, you and I are trained to a level how to listen and how to counsel, and we swap time. We swap an agreed amount of time. So 10 minutes, half an hour. So it's free. And if you can train people, if you can make training accessible, then anyone can have it for the rest of their lives.
So are you taking more of an approach where you are training them or teaching them to heal themselves?
To some extent, there is a belief, let's say, in this type of training, type of counselling, that it's very hard to heal yourself alone, isolated, right? I mean, some things you can. Some dynamics, some traumas you'll be able to do alone in a forest or however you do it, or on a dance floor, for instance. But a lot of things, the large part of the problem was that you were alone when it happened, or that you, say as a mother, I have children, and when something big happens to them, because it always will, shitty things happen, our society has kind of encouraged us to not stay close in those moments. Yeah, bit of food here, have a lolly, shut it up. And so a lot of healing work is, done far faster and far more effective if someone is right up there with you when you're revisiting that trauma, that hurt.
I mean, what I often say is that in the kind of shadow work and trauma work I do, there are so much of our trauma is because we weren't held through it at the time. You know, like being held is the medicine. And that is why, even if you are fluent in your own nervous system and trauma body and shadow work, very often you still have to go and be held by somebody else, because the part of you that wasn't held at the time needs that holding in order to integrate.
In co-counselling, one of the tools is literally labelled, and by the way, I was trained by the largest co-counselling organisation in the world, which I might as well, it's best to say, which is Reevaluation Co-Counselling. So rc.org is there, you can look at it. And one of the first things you'll be taught is about contradictions. So you step into, I'm stepping into shared time with you, Ekbalu, right? And you say to me, I'm crap at maths. I don't know. I'm about that off the top of my head, right? And so I'm looking for a contradiction to that. Or I feel, a better one. Yeah, I'm just really lonely. So I'm looking for where to contradict that, because that's the bit where you will start to heal, is where the response to that feeling is different from how it was when you were little. When you were little, someone may have been there, but they probably shut you up. Nearly always. That's what people do. Still to this day, we shut children up. So I'm looking to react differently to your, I'm just really lonely at home. I live alone and I'm really lonely. Yeah. And we get to be together now. I'm going to stay with you right now, even if it's only for 10 minutes. You've got all my attention. In that statement, I mean, I've counselled people thousands of times. Gets people going. And yeah, I'm not fixing that past bit, but it's such a deep contradiction to hear someone say, I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere, and you have me. You are number one. You are the most important thing to me for this next 10 minutes. That's enough to kickstart a bit of healing. And one of the big points of that I think also make it quite different to other healing modalities is that we are looking for what RC, I'm going to call it, Reevaluation Co-Counselling, call discharge. We are looking for the natural ways that the body removes distress, removes trauma. Whereas a lot of modalities aren't looking for that. Looking for the way the body responds. And I'm sure both of you have seen the shaking, the laughing. I don't know if you know about yawning. Yawning literally releases cortisol from the body. So you will notice from this moment on, people yawn in awkward moments. They yawn when something's a bit, especially awkward. Or if it gets a bit hard, if something gets hard, people start to yawn. It's really interesting. And because once you know that, you allow it. We say, take the yawn. Because in society, it's been told that you're a bit, it's a bit rude. Or shaking. If my daughter's hurt herself bad, she's the bigger one, she's 10 now, bad, she will shake. You'll see her jaw go, her shoulders go. Animals do it, obviously, because they haven't been stopped. And I have a 3-year-old now. He's deeply still connected to all that, how his body heals. And if he's very upset, he will scream. He will release, he'll stamp his feet. And I'm trying to have more tantrums, if you can believe it, because instead of reacting to them, they can be very annoying, yeah? They're 10 and 3. What? Annoying. It's the feeling is that, I'm trying to get out the door, trying to get to work. So instead of coming for them, because I'm triggered, I lie on the floor and I do it in the car. I did it before. It was cool. To someone on a voice note, a co-counselor. I sent her a voice note. Like, get it out. Yeah. And it looks, I think you were happy for me to talk about the anti-oppression link. And it's so deeply based in anti-oppression work. All therapy, but with RC specifically, why I love it is because they accept that. I'm sure you've both seen it. Some of the work we do looks crazy. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Inside a mental health hospital and did some of the things we do, they'd say, grab that one, shove them in there. And
they did. I just want to point out that they, like,
do.
They do, and they did, like women expressing themselves, like there has been a locking up or the
opposite of women expressing themselves, crazy, being deeply wounded, right? They could tell this story in a counselling, some psychotherapist. Oh yeah, I was abused, maybe some sexual abuse. 1 in 3 people, probably, I'd say I've counselled with, men and women, have been sexually abused. It's children. It happened. It's rife. Oh yeah, so they tell the story, but I don't really feel anything. That in itself, or it manifests in because they've been allowed to be violent. They've been men have been allowed anger because it's manly, but they're not allowed other things. And then we lock them up because they act out certain things. But we don't see that they're so deeply wounded. They're so deeply hurt. What they need is the contradiction, is the hug, is to be close. Yeah, you feel those things and you're still good. You are still a completely good person. Therapy in itself, or this, if you're really going to try for healing, you have to accept that we live in an oppressive society. And the first oppression that comes for all of us is that kind of mental health oppression, or one of the big oppressions that come for all of us is mental health oppression. That if you show yourself, you are at risk. You do big healing work, you are at risk of being locked up. So that's on our minds. That's on our minds. And I would say, partly because of this community that I'm in, that it's is that we have to deconstruct. Is that the word? We have to break it down, this system of mental health, the way mental health this works here.
It's interesting that you've said that, because I've literally just come back from a big land work tour. Was all about meeting the true masculine energy, and how much the masculine energy is the energy, the father energy is the energy that gives us permission to express, because biologically we're in oneness in our mother as an egg, and it's the father energy that comes in and goes, be yourself, be your own person. And so we were working on that on quite a deep level, and what came through this intense work that I was doing with the land and with the people was that the reason, and I'm interested to hear what you say, the reason that our expression is so corrupted in terms of when we need to express, we often go into fight or flight or freeze or fawn, none of which are authentic expression, is because the masculine has been so militarized. Because the military has basically trained our fathers and our grandfathers to fight or flight or freeze or fawn. And that's what we then do. We've inherited that when it comes to our expression. We were also taught it because, everybody came back from those 2 wars in the first part of the 20th century and taught and told, I always think of the baby boomer generation, which was my parents' generation, and how every time they would have expressed, every single adult around them would have said, you should be so lucky. Don't complain about your broken toy. You were not in the war. You were not in the depression. You were not And so their expression got completely unpermitted, you know, like they were just told they were meant to be happy because they had it better than the last generation. And I just wonder what you think of all of that, because that's literally just what people were.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what comes up, because I could think on it for a while, but I haven't got the time. We haven't got the time. What comes up is again, like, we can't do this work without accepting that we have to break down the oppressions, because the military complex is a capitalist oppression. No, is a result of capitalism. Would we have it? Would we have it if there was not so much money, or, you know, if we go back before money, land or resource, like this, you know, this oppression of hoarding and of some having much and people having less. Yeah, I don't know if we would have it. And something about, like, just staying with what I know, which is how these oppressions really just sexism, ageism, capitalism. Ageism being like a really interesting one, because everyone has a united oppression that has hit them, which is of being like children's oppression. And something about when people get to do the work, how these things fly off. So to give you an anecdote, we have loads of support groups all over the world for specific things. And we have owning class liberation. Owning class, I don't know if they call it liberation. Owning class, they do owning class work for the upper class, yeah? And they do a lot of work about giving back all the, like, what they own. And people, like, in the States, ours was started in the States, have given back land. Yeah, they're giving back their land.
What? So this is about the class that own land.
Class that own, because I mean, I know lots of owning class people in London, because they're in my area. We counsel together, and they talk about it all the time, like how because that's what happens. The more you do that early work where you got hurt, then you know, where you got hurt with owning class people got hurt with separation. It was like how they got hurt, isn't it? They were removed from the love of humanity. They don't have that love for humanity because there was no human fucking there. Whereas working class people may be lost. They may not have the resource. But because of that, they were so bloody close. My kids are in my bed. I don't have a big house, but they're in my bed. We're all so bloody close.
Yeah.
You know, and we look after each other. We're in each other's houses. What do you need? I've got your back. And there's something about that creates, like, you probably couldn't become a billionaire because you couldn't be that inhumane. You couldn't do that kind of exploitation because you're too, you know, people.
Because you're rich in community rather than rich in capital.
I need things to fulfill, you know. Maybe you're you know, working class people have it in a different way. You know, we do damage to our bodies sometimes because we blast it out.
Come back to this. So this is about meeting your owning class and then giving back land and giving back to community, or to giving back to where?
Co-counselling because co-counselling is just a space. It's just all about counselling, becoming a really good counsellor. Over the years, the training kind of, you know, it's a non-stop learning. We all meet up. Normally it's once a week. I do a 1.5 hours to 2 hours meeting with the Northwest London area, right? Made up of loads of different people from different groups. And we counsel. And that's happening all over the world. One of the biggest growing communities is the African nations in Nigeria, in, like, what's that tiny country next to South Africa? Teeny tiny Soweto or something. I was meeting people on Zoom calls because we do international Zoom, like, and then you get stuck in breakout rooms with people from all over the place. You're like, oh, where are you from? Oh, and we counsel. But because we all have this fundamental understanding of co-counselling, we can counsel, we can swap 5 minutes. You know, it's very powerful. It's very powerful and it's free. I mean, I may pay a little bit to go on the workshop, the specific workshop, a little bit. It's always means based. But I have 3 or 4 groups on my WhatsApp where I shoot out parents group, my local area group, a Black support group, and a Raised Poor support group. And I can shoot out a message to all of them. I just literally copy and paste it. Look, anyone free to swap 10 minutes? I'm about to kill my kids. I'm about to fucking like Bart Simpson and Homer vibes. And someone will jump in, yes.
So it's like counselling on tap, counselling when you need it, rather than waiting for the £100 hour on a day when you might not need it.
I work in the therapy world, right? I work like for a big charity, yeah. So I see it. You know, for them to get talking therapies, they have to wait. They have to be suicide. You know, they have to be on the edge, and then they'll get 3 sessions. 3 sessions? Like, what the fuck are you supposed to do in 3 sessions? You know what I'm saying? In 3 sessions, you can find out that you were abused by your mum. You can scratch into it, and then what? And then what? And then they'll send you out into the world, and you're like, oh, you know, it's not worth it. I'd say you're better off on the smack. Keep that Pandora's box closed because it's too painful. It's too painful. They kill themselves. You know, we're laughing, but they do. That's what people do. You know, suicide is, it's got too bad. It got too painful. And I get it. I don't really, when people kill themselves, I think, you know, let them do it. Like, not, it's good, but like, who are we to force someone to go through that level of pain? To continue in a society that does not support. And the reason I'm so passionate about this specific thing I do, one of these, you know, out of the few things I do, is because it's so accessible and it's so life-changing. It's so life-changing, you know? I don't want to wait, like, you know, my moon circle is a sweet thing, and it's nice that there's like quite a big community that turn up for it. The counselling, the co-counselling has had a huge impact on how I set it up. Co-counselling's underpinned everything I do. Like, I work as a horticultural therapist, and we talk in our team meetings about how are we going to connect to these homeless people who are in home. They're in we're housing them in our charity. It's a very big charity. It's the biggest in the UK. But they're coming from homeless situations, or young people coming into adulthood, or coming from refuges, domestic violence refuges, or veterans, or blah, 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 or asylum seekers. How are we going to connect with them? How are we going to get them, you know, having their best time? Or like, some of my colleagues want to get them talking. And because I've done lots of co-counselling, and I do it all the time outside, you know, work, I'm like, I don't really want to get them talking. I want to get them talking about their mum. I want to do what we're also very good at in co-counselling, which is getting their attention back to the present. So after a counselling session, we give question outs to, you've been talking about your mum, how she used to beat you up. Right, okay, go for it. All right, now this beep, 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 beep. Time's over. We don't go on. Maybe we even have to swap, and you have to give me some attention. And to get your attention out, I'm going to ask you some positive things. What's your favourite tree? Tell me something beautiful you can see right now. Tell me a nice walk. And I'm trying to get your attention back to some benign, positive reality, because there is always the existence of something good, even when you've been talking about something awful. A lot of psychotherapists don't do that. They give people an hour of big therapy and then they send you on your way. And it's a big deal to bring people back. What are we doing the work for? If not to be here. Like, I was listening to your Life Force. We made a Life Force movie, and I'm listening. I'm like, that's what it is. To be here in this fucking wonderful reality. You get to be alive. Might be dead in 5 minutes. I don't fucking know. No, hopefully not. But like, and so in the horticultural therapy, me personally, as one of the few that's trained in counselling, they're not all trained as counsellors, my colleagues. I'm like, no, I want to keep people in the garden. I want to keep people there. Yeah, they spend most of their time fucking thinking, worrying, what's going on. They're like, oh yeah, yeah, because my dad, I'm really missing my dad. I say, yeah, you must do. You must do. What nice walks did you go on? I'm not trying to tell them, oh, like, how bad was it? How fucking bad did it? No, I want to keep them somewhere good. Oh, what do you think? What do you think of this flower? You know? What do you how many petals do you think it's got? Oh, yeah. It's about 20. Yeah. You smell it. It's so nice. I'm trying to bring them back to the earth all the time. So
it's so funny. I love the flow of these things. I was literally writing today, this morning before this, about being held, and what I was channeling was that living and surviving are different, and living is an embodied existence. It's a soul existence. Surviving is the existence without our soul. And when we are unheld, which is our trauma, that's when we're surviving. We're present, you know, when we're living, when we're held, the soul is able to enter, and then we're able to live. And I feel like you've just described that so beautifully in terms of like when somebody is held, whether it's with 10 minutes of co-counselling or somebody truly being present with them and beholding them, then they are able to live. They are able to come back to their senses. They are able to come back to nature. They are able to come back to the beauty.
And to go back to your initial question, I mean, if you're in that space, you wouldn't probably go to war. You wouldn't be able to like do this huge exploitative whatever the hell. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to do it. You wouldn't need to. You wouldn't need to. You'd be like, I got a sandwich. I've got to go for a walk. I'm going to make million. Why do I need the next million? You know? And so I think what happens across the board with people who are doing co-counselling is the liberation work comes. It comes like I said about the owning class people. How could you hold on to more than you need if you're doing this work all the time and you're feeling so good? Not in the counselling sessions, you don't feel good, by the way. You don't always feel good. You can feel awful, like you're dying, you know, depending on the work you're doing. But then after, have you ever been for a cold swim? Like a freezing cold swim? You know that feeling where you're like, amazing. I feel great. It's that, you know, it's that feeling. So, yeah. And I could talk about I've talked about how I do it in my work. And within the moon circle, I don't start any circle. I've been doing them for years and years, done, I don't know how many, because I do them at festivals now, but I don't start them without setting some guidelines on anti-oppression, how we can hold this space in an anti-oppressive way, you know? And then making it wrong.
Tell us what those guidelines are.
Guidelines are, well, firstly, we say all feelings are welcome, yeah? So that would connect back to like the anti-mental health system oppression, anti-mental health, whatever, you know what I meant by that. So like, we're not going to shame someone for like, having a feeling. And then with language liberation, we're going to notice we're speaking in English, yeah? Which is a language that has dominated the world, not because it's better than the next, but just because of colonialism. And we're going to notice that not everyone in the room speaks English necessarily as a first language. So we're going to take our time and make sure we speak clearly. And we're going to give space if anyone ever needs to ask for something to be said again or etc. Just notice that. We let people of the global majority go first if they want to, when they share. People of the global majority meaning non-Europeans, yeah? We're in a European country, but we're still the majority. Oh, and we time for equality. So because I'm a chatter, some people are not, but we want to hear as much of that person's, this is in the moon circle where we share, this is not counselling, but I want to hear as much of that person's voice as of mine. If I think of some more, maybe there's more, but I can't remember.
It was an interesting analogy used with the cold water, because it's interesting how something like micro trauma works. If you're just in there for a short amount of time, it really sucks. But then the way you feel after it is amazing, and the health benefits are good. And people underestimate the importance of just being able to communicate and just get things off your chest. But there is a fine line, because if you're living too much in the present or too much in the future, you actually cause a state of anxiety. And then that causes more stress and more trauma. So it is very, very interesting to get that balance. And I think where a lot of men have gone wrong, it's because this divine masculine has been replaced with this toxic masculinity, and we no longer know how to express and communicate. So we bottle it up because we're meant to be the rocks. We're meant to be the rocks of the family and the relationship. So it's weak to speak out, and it's weak to be vulnerable. So instead of communicating it with our friends, because we might come across as weak, we bottle it up and we think about it over and over, and we think about the past and the present, and we try to solve problems and dwell on things. And I think that's what causes these huge issues in men, because we've just forgotten how to communicate. And I think when a man has a strong woman beside them, I think that's when you'll see a man in their full power, because when they feel safe to be able to express themselves, I think that's when they're the happiest, and that's when they're in their best state. And I think the problem with some men now as well, it's when they are starting to break away from that old school mentality, from that, that shoulder complex you speak about. But as we start to express ourselves, if you're in a toxic relationship, we get shut down. And in that little window where we feel like we can start expressing ourselves and we get shut down, that door is closed for a long time. And that's what breaks men. And that's why the depression rate and the suicide rate in men is so high, because I think all of them at some point have tried to express themselves to feel good, and they've been shut down, and then they just close the door forever because they don't want to be hurt again, and they lose that sort of trust. So, and it's interesting, I'm reading a book now as well, and it's about it's about Jesus, and it's about his interaction with Mary Magdalene. And it wasn't until he came in contact with Mary Magdalene and they had tantric ceremonies in the temple of Isis that she brought out the power in Jesus. And if he never met Mary Magdalene, he never would have been the Jesus that we hear of today. And it just shows how important that divine feminine is for the masculine. And I think that's something that needs to be spoken about more, because as a man, I know what it's like to not really feel confident to speak about what you want, but then how good it does feel when you actually do it in the right environment. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. I find it interesting. I haven't worked out this divine feminine, divine masculine. It comes up as a camper driving, festival going, homeschooling hippie. I still have not quite worked out this chat about divine masculine, divine feminine. Like I hear all that you said about how male-bodied people have been hurt. Yeah, like it's as if, I've heard this in co-counselling actually, that you're the first ones that society comes for, because if you can break the man, then, because oppression is a kind of, there's a state, I think the statement goes, no one would oppress another person if they weren't hurt themselves, and they weren't hurt them, something like that. And so if you can hurt the men by not allowing them to feel, like you said, and then shaming them for the few moments that they tried to break free, then they will go on to hurt women and children in whatever ways, and then so oppression continues. But in regards to like divine feminine, divine masculine, I'm not sure, and I think I get almost triggered by it because I'm a single mum. Here I sit, in army trousers, boots, about to do a very physical job where I'm powerful and I'm strong and I embody basically a load of masculine energy, no? I'm bringing the food home. I'm providing, I'm holding space. I can even feel it. And when I talk in like I can fight. I'm strong,
Ekbalu is your dad. So, Ekbalu, I'm pretty sure, embodies the feminine when he is looking after his daughter.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure there's a lot of lessons in makeup or like whatever goes on.
But don't you feel a bit wary of using these terms? Yeah, almost like question, don't have the answer. Yeah, just so you know that. But like, is it oppressive to use the term embodying his feminine when he's with his child, as if the masculine or men can't? Like, are we talking about the energy or are we talking about the body? If we're talking about the energy, I can kind of run with it. Yeah, like I can embody it all. I can flow between. Everybody flows between. I've got loads of non-binary friends that fucking float between. They do what the fuck they want. Outwardly, inwardly. I got trans friends who have gone, or not even decided. They feel way on the other side of the binary, right? So their feminine is roaring, or their masculine is roaring. But we're not talking about a body a body thing. That feels like the body thing is where the oppression comes for you. You have all that feminine, you have all that masculine, you have all that capacity. It's just that because you have a penis, like I have a son, yeah? They spotted, the moment they realised he was a boy, I say they, society, suddenly when he falls over, people are less responsive.
Yeah.
Why? Or when my daughter climbs a tree, they're more concerned. Oh, are you going to be able to? This is fucking oppression. There's nothing in this rooted in any reality. My daughter's a sick tree climber. I'm an activist. We spent years on, direct line activists, like stop HS2 all fucking day. Like we were there, My son's dad was up. I met him up a tree for days. He was up a tree for days. That's where I met him. I just think we have to be careful with the divine masculine, divine feminine. Oh, my power. My seat of power is in my womb.
Well, I want to hear what you have to say, because when I was working on this militarized masculine and really looking at the shadow of it in myself and how it was operating in my nervous system, I was looking at it from a point of view of the feminine energy is the energy that knows how to receive, and the masculine energy is the energy that knows how to express. So that's where I was looking in me as a queer person.
Fine.
But in this journey, I was like, I don't know. There was one moment where I was just like, Spirit, I don't even know what. Like, I'm so militarized and the world has been so militarized. I don't even know what the opposite of the militarized masculine is. Like, the militarized masculine is all I know. What is the opposite? And the answer that came through was, it's the mothered masculine. And suddenly I was like, oh, wow. Like, now I've got this understanding of masculine and feminine energy that I didn't have before. Like, it's the held masculine. It's the masculine that is nurtured and supported by the great cosmic womb, and I was just like, oh, what happens if I mother my own expression? And that for me was where I suddenly had this like whole new understanding of the masculine and the feminine. And in a way, to me, what you're talking about with this revolution of like, to me, mothering is holding. So I can see why co-counselling is a revolution for the masculine in all of us. And then I can also see the point, and I really want to hear what Ekbalu has to say, that if you have a physical penis, you are treated differently when it comes to expression and emotion in the West. Maybe not in other places,
Yeah, I mean, it's true. There's definitely that stereotype where people innately, and it's out of love. It's not out of any form of like discrimination or racism or anything like that. It's just I think people just innately act different to a boy or a girl, and it's so true. Like, I only have a daughter, but you see parents who have both, and there is a different way that they can behave towards them. And to the little girl, they're much more tolerant and patient and understanding, but for the boy, they're more stern and get up and all that stuff. So it is systemic from a young age. But then you don't know how much of that is necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. Maybe that is just this innate sort of like.
Are we bringing up soldiers? Like, this is what I want to ask. Like, this is why West of What is happening.
Yeah.
Like, are we, by parenting and community parenting in that way, bringing up militarized men?
I think in this generation, definitely less so than ever before. I think, my parents and their parents and whatnot, like, for sure. But I think this generation, the militarized masculine is definitely getting broken down, and I think they're getting more in touch with the feminine side for sure. And you can see throughout society how much more it's accepted for men to, literally transition to women. It's like that is more accepted now than it was 40 years ago, 100%. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a shift in some sort. I observe, I guess, other fathers because, I'm one myself, and I can see how I am to my daughter. Like, I'm just so affectionate and nurturing, and like she's really helped bring out this sort of like, nurturing, gentle side. And I think coming out of the relationship as well, it's helped release that too. But then you see some other dads and they're just so cold to like their kids, and there's just no like hugging. They're much more like that militarized masculine, and there's, I just can't even imagine them like hugging and kissing their own kids, which is just like a bizarre thing. Yeah. So there's definitely still some of that systemic.
But one of the things I find really interesting, and I don't know if you feel this, Carmen, and it's part of the reason, not the only reason, of course, but it's part of the reason that Ekbalu's on the show, is I find if the masculine ever, especially if I'm honest, if the straight white male masculine ever expresses anything that they find hard, I find this judgment rise up in me that they don't have a right to say things are hard.
That's because you've not done enough counselling, babe. That's okay. Times have changed now. This is the moment you're gonna get. The truth is, it's really like everything you're saying is really. I understand, and I remember it, and even you, Ekbalu, like I remember men being like that, but my world is not like that because I'm surrounded by men.
Yeah.
Who counsel, and they feel deeply and they cry, and then they do loads of counselling, loads of co-counselling. I mean, it's a lifelong, just like you just have it there. And then they also, I hear about the men's workshops where they get to rage and they get to fight, and you'll have one man at your back, one at your side, one at the other side, a counsellor at your front looking at you, a counsellor behind him to hold the person actually counselling you, and you get to show yourself in all your glory. You get to, like I've seen them at different workshops, they lie in each other's arms and no one says the fucking no, bats an eyelid. It's just standard, because men can be soft and men can be gentle and men can be nurturing, and all the spectrum of humanness men can be, and women can be it without being crazy, but this is why I wanted to talk about co-counselling, because it's revolutionary. People who haven't done it are still living in the matrix of like a world. That's not to say you're in the matrix, because you two obviously know that this kind of unfeeling, oppressive world is not right. But there are people living it. And one of the big things that I'm proud of that I did within my activism is that when we were we had loads of encampments created for the campaign Stop HS2. So wherever HS2 were bombing through ancient woodland, they went through 108 ancient woodlands. So they were taking down millions of trees. I don't know, I say millions, probably millions of trees. Some of them hundreds of years old. Like, we're talking an absolute obscene amount of destruction. They say just the first line, so from London to Birmingham, the amount of land grab that it was nearly the size of Leeds. People didn't know about this. People didn't know the extent of the devastation. So a load of us got involved in the activism, and we were there. We would get to the woodlands, set up camps. People would be living there. Obviously, I had a kid. I didn't have the littlest one at the time, but for me to stay was, you had to be arrestable. It was a bit dodgy, but we stayed sometimes. But some people lived there. My son's dad lived about 8 months on one of the camps, and they would create tree houses so that when the bailiffs and all the people came, all these horrible people, these militants that were paid by HS2 to come and get all the people out, they would fly up these trees on ropes with the harnesses on, pull the ropes up, and then they wouldn't be able to chainsaw the trees because there's people in them, right? That was the gist of and they use these tactics all over the world to stop the destruction of trees and stuff. And so I went in there, and with a male co-counselling friend of mine, we would teach people co-counselling. We would teach it in about a 2-hour session. Enough information that then that whole camp, all the people living on that site who are facing major violence daily, we did like 2-hour roughly co-counselling workshops for all of the activists. And what that meant is that we could think critically when things were hard. Instead of spending months, weeks, whatever. I did it for Extinction Rebellion. At Extinction Rebellion, we do it because people are up against, as you both are as well, you know, like when you think about what's happening to the world, my goodness, you could just not get out of bed. You could be like, I'm hopeless. Co-counselling was revolutionary, really, in the activist communities, in Extinction Rebellion, when you're up against something that feels so oppressive and just so big, like climate change. A lot of people do not fucking bother with climate change because it feels huge. And for instance, in reevaluation co-counselling, there's loads of like climate change groups and meets, and especially it's important, you know, it's really amazing that they do groups that are international. So you'll get loads of people from, let's say, African nations there who are facing it. The global south faces it on a day-to-day. They feel it on a day-to-day. And then there's us, you know, there's fucking aircon, great internet, mostly great internet connection. Like, we're not facing it in the same way. So it's important that we hear the stories, and then we hear horrific stories, and when we get to counsel on them, we get to counsel about how heavy it is. And then we get to go out and, without the cloud of fog in our brains, go out and act, go out and make a difference to the world, you know, without huge feelings of hopelessness. In co-counselling, if I was counselling someone on hopelessness, you said to me, I just don't think I'm going to be able to change this thing, you know. Like, I'd say, well, let's go back. Let's go back to to your earliest memory of feeling hopeless. Likely it's, you know, when you were 1, 2, 3, 4, there may be some memory of a time you fought for something and it was completely hopeless and no one listened to you. Unlike my children, fortunately, who have been brought up in counselling, who, if they say, like this morning, I want you to go to Tesco and buy me, I don't want school dinners. My daughter's telling me how disgusting school dinners are. She's 10, she's been in school for a year, she was homeschooled her whole life. School dinners are rank. I didn't have any food. I said, I'm not going to Tesco. You're going straight to school. She's raging about it. I just listened. You can rage. You're hopeless. You know, it's a hopeless situation. And I hope that was a decent analogy of like, sometimes you just need to be heard.
I'm really curious. It's an amazing analogy. And I'm really curious to what you'd say in that co-counselling situation in response to somebody saying what I just said, which is like the wounding in me struggles with hearing a straight cis white male reading express. And I understand it, because the part of me that feels like the straight, and I know it's not true, I know it's wounding, but I'm just really curious because that's kind of come up as part of this conversation. What you'd say in a counselling session if somebody was saying like, I struggle, because I know so many people that do. And yet I think so much of the medicine is to stop militarizing our masculine. So like, I'm really curious.
If you were to use this tool, for instance, and let's have it right, this is me counselling you, or like, this is my perspective on how it would go. For instance, I would be curious about your earliest relationships with white, straight, cis men. What's your, I'd be saying to you, who was one of the closest white, straight, cis men that you had? What was the relationship like? And you could tell me the story. The reality is, if you had amazing white, straight, cis men in your life that were there, that listened, that held the space for you to be all the human that you wanted, that you had in, really healthy intimacy with, and they were playful and loving, would you have these feelings? For them now? I could take a wild guess all the white men weren't like that in your life. Same way Ekbalu talked when you were talking about your experience of showing your feelings and how it was. I've got to be honest with you, I was thinking, some woman showed him love but was not there all the time, didn't get that right. That was my thinking, because I fucking psychoanalyze everyone. I'm sorry, can't help it. Like, I was thinking, he's obviously been broke out a bit. Like, as you were talking, I was like, you've broke out a bit and been able to show yourself now, and people aren't getting it right. And I'd take a wild guess you had a mum that got it a bit right, but couldn't always be there. And there's somewhere where the men really got it wrong with you. That would be my fucking guess.
Well, yeah, like obviously, like if you're referring to me, in the relationship, yeah, like I was in a toxic relationship, and being sort of shut down, that really doesn't help, and I do actually see that a lot. It's the conscious male sort of trying to break out of this systemic way that men are meant to be. I grew up as a man who was pretty good at sport and played sport and, went out and, drank a lot of beers and all that stuff. And it's like, to break away from that and try to become this more conscious man, to be that sort of lone ranger, it can be isolating at times, and when you're not feeling as supported when you're meant to be, but by the person you're meant to, to be loved and held by, it's honestly just shit. And, you don't realize how toxic it is. You don't realize how much you bottle it up until you actually leave that relationship. And of course, as you touched on, there's going to be these waves of emotions and thoughts and feelings like, oh, fuck women, they're all the same, they're all crazy, you know what I mean? And like, you hold this resentment, but you have to heal that because it's not true. You have an experience like that, but that's not the same for everyone by no means.
In co-counselling, again, to just use the point, say you'd say all this, I'd say, well, because when you work early, like an onion, you go to the center, you go a bit closer to the center. When you're talking about the toxic relationship, it feels a bit outer layer. It probably happened, within a decade? Within the decade? That's a very small, that's not a large part of, it's a large part, but it's not the gist of your life. So the question would be, what was the relationship like with your mum or the female? The early female, the big female role in your... What did it look like? Did it look like someone who could not hold everything that you were? Probably, because you're fucking human. And as a mum, we're living in a society where we're told, shut that kid up. So if you was to... as your counsellor, I would say, the toxic... Now you've told me a bit about that and you've got the chance to... Let's keep working early. Let's keep going early and talking about your mum, talking about your sister, talking about whoever it was that was around And chances are somewhere in there are going to be people that did not hold the space for you. And the more you talk about that and the more you tap in to that little boy that wasn't allowed to feel, now with a loving me, with me sitting beside you saying to you, you know, I love you, Ekbalu. I'm your co-counselor and I got you. I'm here. I'm not leaving. Tell me what it was like. And then I would spot, oh, that story sounds hard. Yeah, let's stay with that. Let's stay with that. And then you'd start to cry or you start to shake or you'd start to yawn. And I would not stop you. I'd say, oh, you're doing amazing. Contradiction to what your early life had. You're doing amazing. Stay there. I'm not going anywhere. You're incredible. And you feel, and I love, and I'm here for it. And you'd continue, and you'd continue. And I would take a wild guess. Your choices in women would shift because you do that work. The more I did the work I grew up with men that were not present, literally not present, and then also like mentally not present, and then abusive, and I got with men like that. The more I do the work, the more I don't need to get with men like that to do the work. I don't know if that made sense, but it made sense to me because I think when you don't do the work, like in a fucking structured situation, you go for people that will ignite that pattern, like, and maybe force you to do the work. Do you know what I'm saying? You went for a woman, possibly, that didn't allow certain elements of your humanness for you to break free and be like, no, I'm not living like this no more. Why am I not living like this? You know, I got with people where there's domestic violence, where there was like stuff. Why? Because I grew up with it. And I had to fucking, like a phoenix, you know, I had to fucking feel it, go to it, feel it, and heal from it. And now I think I'm a bit healed.
Here's the thing. I think collectively we're in a toxic relationship with the system. And, you know, that toxic relationship translates to our relationship with the earth and to the system. You know, like we're living toxic relationship because we were brought up in toxic relationship.
If I think back to my parents, like I love my parents and I wouldn't change a thing, and they've been so loving and supportive, I would not change a thing. But in terms of their affection and their expressing their emotion side, I would say they're quite bottled up for sure. And that's because their parents were just shocking. The way their parents parented them, I cannot believe you can be that cold to your children. And, you know, there's definitely something systemic there as well. And I feel like, you know, for me to be so affectionate and loving to my daughter, I feel like that's so foreign to my family and the way I express my love for her. And even I see my brothers to their kids, I just don't see them being quite as, you know, affectionate as well, or just being quite as sensitive. So there's definitely something there. I mean, my parents, like if me and my brothers give my parents a card, I always write it and they always know it's me because it's just so heartfelt in the way that I articulate it. And the other ones would just be like, Merry Christmas, love you, the boys. You know what I mean? So it's just, yeah, there's definitely a difference there. And the difference is I've done the work. You know, my last literally like 15 plus years has just been me doing the work all over the world on myself, breaking myself down, building myself up again. So yeah, it's been a journey.
I think you've done amazing. You should be so proud of yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, truly. It's huge. When men do it, it's huge. And can I just, if you don't mind, I'm just going to point out a bit of discharge that just happened, yeah? I said, you've done amazing. You should be so proud of yourself. Obviously, a clear statement that you know to be true, Ekbalu, and you laughed. And laughing is such a fucking natural release it's a healing. Yeah, people, you know, like we all know it. Like, you know, you laugh a lot. It's healing. And what I did there is I contradicted what much of society will tell you. You know, we don't get told how brilliant and what effort you put in. You just said you went to the depths. It's huge. And you're a man. It's huge. and you laugh. You know, you had a little discharge. Just yeah.
Like, I've felt the discharge that you mentioned, Carmen, but I've also felt it in the field. Do you see what I mean? And in me. About the, like, masculine has also got discharge. So there's something when we're looking at, like, maybe the toxic relationship we are collectively in with the system. I can really see how this co-counselling is a huge part of getting us out of those toxic bonds. Do you see what I mean? And how it actually able to change the field and change the relationship fields that we're in.
Absolutely. Co-counselling is obviously what I've been luckily exposed to. And, you know, it is quite innate. It is quite innate in us. You know, your daughter does it, Ekbalu. She maybe not co-counsels, but she discharges. She shows
100%. Yeah.
100%, no? Yeah. And so it's good. I don't know, maybe if we're heading towards the end, like, something to notice is just that we have this. We are born with it. And there's all these mediums, I'm sure both of you have done loads of them, that kind of tap back into that early innate way of discharging, of healing. And yeah, children are such a great way to look at.
They've just got no filter. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, they haven't been hurt enough. You know, all three of us could tell a story of what happened when you really showed yourself. I could test you both out. You know, I could say, right now, first thought, what's the earliest memory of how you would be treated if you'd have a big cry? Like, how I would be treated if I would be told to shut up. I would have been told, stop making a scene.
I was literally told that there were children starving in Africa and therefore I didn't have the right to cry.
Right. and there sits a person facilitating all this healing. Unsurprising, you've turned into this facilitating, healing person that fucking holds space for everyone. That's not surprising, is it?
Well, it's interesting because you know, I'm from the owning class. Like, actually, my family were like a real mix of working class and immense privilege. But the amount of guilt that comes with the owning class,
right?
You are not allowed to feel anything because you are privileged,
right?
And so it's not even like you can own the privilege to give it. You see what I mean? Like, because you're made to feel so uncomfortable about having it. Then you're not able to, like.
Yeah. What a clever way to keep the money in the class. Like, I'm going to make you feel so bad about yourself. You're just never even going to think or feel or anything about it. You're just going to stay numb. Yeah. What happened to you, Ekbalu, when you showed yourself?
Oh, my youngest memory?
Yeah, like an early memory of what happened what comes up first thing?
The earliest thing that I remember, I was 4 years old and my appendix actually burst. And they burst while I was at home, so I almost died. But I remember the whole thing vividly, like the moment they burst, and then I fainted and woke up and just like getting taken to the hospital screaming. And yeah, it was all a big emergency, and that's just always like the first memory I have, which is obviously a bit traumatic.
Well, no, the memory I'm after though is of when you showed yourself, when you had tantrum, or you know, when your daughter's defiant, what would be the response?
Oh, geez. Probably that's a tough one. I'd have to think about that, but probably you know, coming from an old school Italian family, either just like swearing or talking back to my mum, or just throwing a bit of a tantrum and being put in my place pretty quickly.
Yeah, being put in your place pretty quickly. I'm sure that means a lot of things. I'm sure that even sometimes they put their hands on you in a violent way.
Oh yeah, like my mum, like it was never anything too bad, but yeah, my mum would like throw a sandal at me or like whack me with the broom.
Ekbalu, when an adult puts their violence is always bad. that statement you said that, it wasn't that bad, is you having, good luck with your counselling over the next couple of weeks, because go do that work on that. It was fucking outrageous. It's outrageous. Like an adult, especially an adult, throwing a slipper at you. It's awful. You're a child. And that's really going to teach you that if you speak up, it can be very dangerous. And by your loved ones, who adore you, that it can be very dangerous.
And see, we're back to militarization. It is okay to have violence done to you.
Yes.
Military trains. It doesn't train you to be violent. It trains you to have violent, like your life, your physical life isn't sacred. And what I love about this type of counselling and this conversation is I just keep thinking of the world we would live in if everybody tantrums about everything that was going on.
And we didn't get confused.
Tantruming, like what if we all actually went, no, this isn't okay?
Yeah. And the tantrum, by definition, I think, is like, which is what we would say in counselling, and is the difference between someone kicking off. I'm like, you fucking blah, 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 blah. A tantrum is known to be a bit irrational. Maybe not the reason it started, but everything that flies out your mouth while you're doing it, we accept is just part of the tantrum. And that is what I think is very powerful about counselling, is that we accept that what comes out in that time is just healing, dischargey, whatever, doing the work. You're not telling me my mum's a fucking cunt. I'm gonna kill her. And then the session finishes and I think, better call his mum and say, you know what I mean? Be careful. He's going to kill you. We know. You're just doing healing work. I say I want to kill my kids all the fucking time. I promise you I don't want to kill my kids. You know what I'm saying? But I need a place. And an acceptance that healing looks wild. It can look all kind of wild. Don't you dare stick me in a mental health institute or judge me as black women are aggressive. No, I'm fucking feeling here. And when I'm finished with feeling, I'm going to be brilliant again and calm and fucking have clarity of thought. And I feel like I just wish everyone had that space, And that's why I wanted to talk about this as, my main thing that I love, that I master on and that I share with the world. And
as a parent, out of curiosity, what is your method of getting a child who won't listen to listen to you? Now, like whenever one of my parents would have done something like that, it was very isolated and rare, but it was enough to know that when they gave me a look after that, I stopped what I was doing. So it was enough to set the boundaries where I was like, well, I don't want to do that again. And I was out of line just being a kid. But then from that point, it's like a boundary was set, and I knew all my dad or mum had to do was to give me a look where I was like, fuck, if I don't stop now, I'm in trouble. So it kind of worked in a way, and it helped set a discipline that I perhaps needed. So and I think the issue with today, it's probably gone too far the other way, and kids are just getting over so much, and kids know parents aren't going to do anything about it. So they keep swearing, they keep pushing the boundaries, they keep pushing the buttons, and I'm now seeing a shift the other way. So it's like, where is the happy medium because like some sort of fear is important, right? It's like our fear of jumping off a cliff and dying is what keeps us, it helps keep our wits a bit better. So it helps keeps us measured and sensible. So it's like you need to have this element of fear to rein it in a bit. So where's the line, I guess?
That's an interesting question. One I ask myself as a parent all the fucking time. And so that also just declares I'm not 100% sure, right? I get it wrong all the time with my kids, no doubt. But I'll tell you my perspective and where I'm at today with it is that, and what I do, right? If I have the capacity, my capacity is low. I'm an awful parent. But anyway, let's pretend that I've got loads of capacity. I've had loads of counselling sessions. Yeah, my head's clear. I did a bit of yoga and meditation in the morning. Breathe. If my children aren't doing, I agree that it's like we're looking for something in the middle, because I was brought up like you, like we started the right at the beginning of this conversation talking about, freezing. Do we fight? Do we freeze? With parents, you can't fight. There's no fighting. You might fawn, but you're likely just going to freeze what you're doing, yeah? Because we've had that scary kind of violent. There was abuse, as there was in mine, from your most loved human. The human that loved you the most was abusive to you. So of course, when they say we're going to stop, right? I don't want my children to stop out of that. But I also need them to stop doing such and such. My son loves to pull his stool up and hang by the bloody hob. Yeah, loves to stir things. Now, sometimes it's okay. But right now, I've got a huge pot of boiling water and it's just too dangerous. No. Well, using co-counselling, because of my access to this, I'm going to remove him, or I'm going to shift him away from the dangerous. And if possible, I'm going to sit and I'm going to listen. And my children are big enough, like, you don't really get it with a newborn. You maybe a bit. They're going to fight me. They're going to show all their outrage about that they want to do it. And I can nearly guarantee if I sit with that for however long, by the time they're finished showing me, which who knows how long that goes for, and they get over it. They don't want it no more. They don't care anymore. Because it's like, that, I don't know, that place has been worked on, because your daughter's asking for the red cup. Dad, I want the red cup. Yeah, well, there's a blue cup. No, I want the red cup. She is intelligent enough, as you know, as all us parents know, that she knows the blue cup's going to do the same damn thing. You're going to get your juice in your mouth. But there's something going on where she wants to fight, where she wants, Yeah. And so do we appease it? Because that's what I see a lot in society now that we're not allowed in this country to hit kids anymore. It's illegal. We appease. Okay, you don't want that. Okay, yeah, but I can't. All right, you can't have the sandwich. Right, all right, how about the lolly? How about the... No, my children, it's a no. I say no, I'm sorry, but I'm here to hear. And I hear you outraged about it. Yeah, I'm here for it. Tell me how outraged you are. Tell me how pissed off you are, but you're still not getting it. And that's if I got the time. Do you know what I mean? Like that's on a good day, But it does work for me. It works. And then there's also, that place where the thing they're asking for is a real fair thing. It's a real, I don't know, I want to come with you, or I don't want to go to nursery. I see it. My son's started going to nursery and I see it. Kids bawling, crying their eyes out at the gate. And because I'm into counselling, I think, it's so hard because the parents just run off. And of course, the nursery staff aren't going to listen. They're like, okay, look, don't worry. It's okay. I hate that phrase. It's okay. No. In that moment, you've just completely told them their feelings are not correct. It's not okay.
Yeah.
They're upset. And so my child, because I'm such a great mommy, I would be like, yeah, you don't want to go in. No. I'm thinking I've got to go to work, right? No, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still going to go to work, but you don't want to go in. No. Are you going to miss? You want to stay with mummy? Yeah. You're still going to have to go. And I'm looking to make him cry, more or less to remind him of this thing that he's very upset about. Because I don't want the nursery people dealing with it, because they're not going to listen. I want him to have the big cry with me. So I'll tell my kids way in advance something I know they're going to be pissed off about. We can't actually go to the shop to get, the packet of crisps. My daughter, she's kicking the fucking seats. It's kicking off. Yeah, no, we're not going to get the and she just, she goes. And 5 minutes later, she's over it. She's over it. And my kids aren't allowed sugar, yeah? I managed to, people always say to me, I managed to keep a lot of bad foods away from my kids. And I think it's based on that, because they've been able to work out a lot of their stress from it, from seeing other people have it. And the few times, you try ketchup once, you're in for life. And then I'm like, no, you're not having none of that ketchup. They're like, what?
I feel like as you're talking, you're teaching your kids to exercise their expression.
Absolutely. Exercise their expression, but also know that life is not a free-for-all. Like you were saying, there's boundaries. There's boundaries. My children are raised with enough boundaries, loads of them. But personally, obviously I homeschooled my child till she was 9, and Solomon, my son, won't be going to school until he's older. But like, I also don't exercise boundaries where there doesn't need to be any. You want to climb that fucking tree, you climb the tree. You want to do something that is not life-threatening, go do it. You know what I'm saying? If it doesn't hurt anyone, go do it. I'm not really one for like control for sake of control, but that's my parenting. Some people, everybody raises their kids different. I also sleep with my children in bed. I stay close. Stay real close, intimacy all day, and I think it's really important to, where possible, if they have to go to childcare, you stay close to them or outside of it. You have to have, like you and your daughter have to have such a close relationship that when she's deciding whether to do something or not, it's not based on fear like you and I had because our parents would hit us, or whatever. It's based on, I look up to my dad because I've got such a positive relationship with him. What would my dad do? What would my dad do? I want my kids thinking like that.
For sure.
And I think that comes from being around lots of adults, not being peer-led. Like Gabor Mate says, you don't want to be like a 4-year-old taking cues off another 4-year-old about how to live and how to speak and how to be. And if you're in 5 days a week, 8 hours a day with the majority, those children, you start to want to be, and then they come home, they want to play date. I mean, I get why we do it, because we need a break. Parent suppression, it's madness. 2 parents or 1 parent raising children is madness. But we have to keep them close. We have to keep them close so that they're getting their cues off us.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's a very good description of how to handle it. And I think, I think as a society, we've gone so far one way, and now this whole Instagram parenting movement has just put everything so far the other way, because it's like, yes, this whole, movement is about getting the kids to express their emotions, but there's just no boundaries being set, like none. And the kids, it's just a free-for-all, and they're letting 2-year-olds make all these choices and 3-year-olds make all these choices, and it's just like their brain isn't fully developed, and they need some guidelines and some guide rope still. So it is important to find that balance. And
what an interesting thing to try and ask someone who's never with you. 5 days a week they're there. Saturdays they go, to this swimming and then this and then that, because you're trying to raise kids that are so good at everything so fucking early on. And then you're like, oh, I'm your parent. Why are you not listening to me? They don't bloody see ya. They don't even know you. Do you know what I mean? I see you. I only know it because I experience it now that my daughter's at school. See him for a few hours in the evening. And then you wake them up in the morning and drag them, get your shoes, get to school.
What I'm hearing, both of you saying this, and I think it's just important to say, is that, like, yes, get kids to exercise their expression, but teach them that their emotions don't necessarily, they don't get to manipulate with their emotion.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Like, their emotional expression doesn't necessarily change the situation they are in or change the outcome. Does that make sense? It's like,
yeah, it makes sense.
I feel like we live in a world that's also, we're very easily manipulated, because we were kind of taught on the other side of it, if you weren't hit and you had a tantrum and then your parents gave you the sweets, that manipulation works. Do you see what I mean? Like, emotional.
Oh, the manipulation powers of my daughter when she tries, it's unbelievable. And I've always been in sales, so I know all the techniques, and she's just like a natural. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. In the same breath that kids have like wonderful techniques, we are their parents that facilitated these techniques. No, we help. We you know, your daughter has obviously worked out that at some point, if she does certain things, it works. My kids know that I'm weak. If they're hungry, like if they tell me they're so hungry, that pulls at me. I'm thinking, I know you're not bloody hungry. You ate like half an hour ago. Just because they know I love to feed them, or I don't know, for whatever. So you know, it's like then again back to, you know, like some kind of counselling, some kind of work where we get to work on whatever the story was at our early, you know, life. What was it like for you when, you know, your mum or you wanted something and maybe your mum or dad would say, that's making me feel really sad that you're doing that. Immediately there, like, I think adults do it way more than kids. Manipulation. It makes me so happy when you blah, 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 blah. You make me so proud. What the fuck has that got to do with how a child should be living, how a human should live their life based on, you know, what makes people happy and sad? I do it all the bloody time. Do it all the time. So I'm not, you know, I'm preaching something that I don't always fucking practice, but.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the dynamic as well, because I'm a separated parent, as we've touched on, and there's just such a difference between how she behaves around me and how I see she behaves around mum. And you can tell that when she's staying with me, she tries to use certain manipulation techniques that you can tell perhaps works in the other house, but with me, I try to rein it in, but it's like you're always sort of trying to unwind and rewind, and it's this back and forth, and it's just very interesting to see. Like the moment we do the handover and she sees mum, she just like changes completely again, and it's an interesting dynamic, and that's just purely because we obviously parent in different ways, and she knows how to manipulate.
And because your daughter is a completely intelligent human that is you know, she's completely intelligent and she's had a huge trauma. That's a huge trauma. You're a good dad, clearly, yeah? Her mum's probably a great mum, and she's had you taken away, no request of her own. And now she's having to live between, I know it because my children do it, like between two homes. That's hard. She's having to code switch. Like, this is not code switch, but like, this is what works well here. Suddenly, big switch. She's having to find her way. It's a huge amount of, you know, it's a big deal. It's a big deal for a young one. And she's being brought up by single parents. So you're, you know, it's like shattering. You should have 12 people per child, you know, like, and teenagers and multi-ages everywhere. We know that is the reality of what we've humans have had over the longest period of our existence, and now we're down to one. That's like wild.
Yeah. And I think in that reality of many adults and ages and people, there would have been natural co-counselling, and so I kind of feel
100%
co-counselling is a way to bridge the separation that is going on in the world. I feel like it's a way that we can create emotional ceremony with each other, and
100%, perfectly said.
Into, you know, West of What is all about how do we come back into ceremony with the earth, and this conversation has truly inspired me to want to live in a world where parents are co-counselling each other to bring up children, where parents are co-counselling their children, where we are co-counselling each other.
Yes.
To ceremony with the earth and each other, out of the toxic relationship that we have with the system.
Definitely. And when we get to have each other, I've got one of my favourite co-counsellors, one of my favourite humans. I mean, because I've been in, you know, the community for so long. He's an owning class white male, cis white male. Yeah. Brilliant, like exceptional human. And what a powerful thing for us to have, over the many, many years, heard so much about each other's lives. It doesn't take long to hear someone's story and go, fuck me, you are human and you are so hurt. The stories I never went to boarding school, but the stories of boarding school are wild. Like, I feel your pain, like, whoa, and you survived, and you're, the only thing you're doing wrong is like amassing a bit of wealth after all that shit. Like, that's not that bad when you hear what they've gone through. And then he gets to hear my story as a young Black woman that was, put through the mental health system, and he's never going to see another young Black woman the same. Because he's so close. We get to be so close. We hold hands while we swap time when we're face to face, and we get to just be there for each other in a completely platonic, it's wonderful. For instance, on Saturday, I took my eldest to a thing called a play day, which is run by Reevaluation Co-counselling. And they'll have 3 allies, so 3 co-counsellors and the parent per child, and there'll be a bunch of kids. So all us parents bring our child, and they'll make sure that there's at least 3 extra co-counselors per child. And the intention is to play. So a child-led play for whatever it is, 3 hours that we're there. And while we're there, we're going off. Our parents are going to go and have sessions now. Okay, so there's three people, and then the allies go off and have that. We come back, and then the ally, some of the allies, a couple of the allies will go off and have swap time with each other. But the kids are getting played with throughout, and with attention from people who have all been counselling. And we're just there with them. We just get to be there with them. This is the kind of great thinking that has come out of people doing the work, doing big work on themselves. It's a very good idea. My daughter and my son have both been to them and have been able to have however many hours of just adoration, pure adoration. It's very powerful. And then if feelings come up, you've got tons of counsellors who are like, yeah, you're having a big cry. Oh, you want to kick me? Yeah, I don't mind, actually. Yeah, go for it. Oh, you're really pissed off. Yeah, go for it. Yeah. And just hold the space. Powerful.
So
yeah. Even I've noticed as well, like when you touched on just growing up in that community and that tribal vibe that we used to have, which we no longer really have anymore. I've noticed when I go away with a bunch of friends and families, when we go camping or we go to like a really cool venue which has dorms and a nice house and stuff like that, and you're there with like 20 to 30 people and there's kids of all ages and parents, the way the kids are in that environment, it's just so easy. It's just so easy. It's like the kids are just really at home there. They're really grounded. They're so happy. There's no tantrums. And you just notice a huge difference when they're just surrounded by that community. And even if it's not familiar faces, it's just that tribalism. Once they warm up to everyone after an hour or two, it's a beautiful thing, and you just want to do it more and more.
It's not just the way kids are; you see it with adults.
Yeah, exactly. True.
A greater version of yourself when you're held. It's like. Your trauma is who you are when you're not held. But who are you when you're held? You're a different person, different capacity, different gene level.
Truly.
Different level of compassion. It's like, and I think we've got to start moving towards, with amazing projects like the one you've just mentioned, how do we be held adults?
Yeah.
How do we be held people? How do we be families? How do we be held in the system that we're in that is driven towards us being unheld?
Truly. And then in that, being able to hold the planet, being able to hold the planet, because the worst, things that come from not being able to be held is the destruction of the planet, I'm sure. But anyway, Reevaluation Co-counselling, the website is
How do we find it?
rc.org is who I was trained with. There's other co-counselling practices, but rc.org is who I am really behind, and I think just they're amazing. And if you go onto it, you just look for it has like a search thing. You look for your local area. If you're from Bristol, I know the lady who leads the area in Bristol. I know the lady who leads the area in Yorkshire. I mean, we're talking some of the most phenomenal people that you will ever meet. Like, they're doing massive things outside of co-counselling. Massive. Like a lot of the people who started, don't let this put you off if you're not about it, because I got put off Extinction Rebellion at one point, but a lot of the people who started that initial movement were co-counsellors. And it just gives, I think the point is that it gives you a bit of room, I mean, your brain a bit of room to act big, to do big things, you know? Big movements have been started, and you can't help but get into activism and do big, you know, things for the world when you have a bit of space. But anyway, yeah, rc.org. And then you just find your local area, and you can, I don't know, they call it a fundamentals, where you learn the fundamentals of counselling, and then you're invited if you want to join groups that you can counsel with. And it takes about 12 weeks, like for, I don't know, 2 hours a day. You can do it on Zoom.
Carmen, you are living it, and it's been really incredibly inspiring to have you.
Good. I'm so glad. Sorry about the technical issues.
Honestly, like, this conversation was, I can feel it touching so many people. And
that's good.
I feel like, yeah, you are really, really living it. And if more people were showing up as present and intelligent and compassionate and celebratory as you, we'd be living in a very, very different world.
Thanks, babes. Big shout out to my mum. who fucking did all the damage initially, not all of it, but a lot of the damage initially, but then fucking got me into, I used to come, sorry, just a little quick analogy before we end, like I'd come back from Glastonbury or Ibiza or whatever, fucked, yeah, on massive come down, wanting to kill myself. And my boyfriend would call her, and he'd be like, and by this time she had got into co-counselling, and he was like, she fucking wants to kill herself. And she was like, yeah, just listen. She doesn't. Just listen to her. Just let her. And that's how it all started. I was like, fucking, I feel terrible. She'd be like, yeah, you'll work this out. And that was the start of it at about 23. Probably the biggest thing that ever changed my life. Yeah.
Well, what a generation of women. And
Truly.
Thank you so much. And thank you, both of you. I wish both of you were my parents. You're both amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you again. One more question, actually. Who should we have on West of What next?
Oh, my goodness. I don't really know all the people then. Who should you have on West of What next? I think you should have a friend of mine. I'm wary of saying his name. He's an activist from the Stop HS2 movement, and he's also a musician, and he's one of the most biggest change makers I've ever met. He's incredible. He's incredible. Very quiet with it, but he quietly is changing the world. And yeah, living on a commune up in the Midlands at the moment, and just living it every day.
Will you introduce him to us, please?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
So much.
He might be shy though, because he's an activist. You know, if you're ever into anything dodgy, you get a bit like, oh no, my name's Hermit.
He can come on as Hermit.
Yeah. All right, babes.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Take care. Wonderful chatting with you.
Big love to you all. Thanks.
Bye.
If today's episode touched your heart and you want to come into greater relationship with Mother Earth, visit landtantra.com and get involved. Your truth is part of this conversation, and we would love you to reach out on socials and let us know how it landed. And if it really inspired you, we hope you share it with others. Let's add more wow to our world.